produced by OneEleven Productions.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Welcome to Adventures of Women in Tech and Life. Tonight, we come together to celebrate the voices, journeys, and achievement of women in technology, STEM, and beyond. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the land we are gathered on. We acknowledge the land we are meeting is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. My name is Deiria Lee, and it is a true pleasure to be your master of ceremony this evening. This evening is about inspiration, representation, and community. It is about creating a space for honest conversation, shared experience, and meaningful connections. We are here to celebrate women who lead, innovate, create, research, and open doors for others. And we are also here to recognize the power of community, because when women support women, when allies show up, and when communities come together with purpose, real change becomes possible. Thank you all for being here and for being part of this very special evening. Before we continue, let's quickly go over a few housekeeping notes. Please ensure your phones are set to silent mode. We will enjoy networking, food, and beverage at the end of the event. Each attendee has two alcoholic drink tickets. Please help us keep the space clean and organized throughout the evening. And keep in mind that we will be taking a group picture before the networking portion begins. Also, you are invited to share your photos and a special moment using the hashtag #WomenInTech. Please follow volunteers' instructions to ensure the event flows smoothly. Tonight is about connection, inspiration, and community, so let's enjoy every moment together. This event is possible thanks to the collaboration, dedication, and support of many incredible people and organizations. We would like to recognize the amazing team behind Alianza Latina, our host, OneEleven, our sponsors, eCampus Ontario, TechMe Corp, OneEleven Productions, and IE University. Our keynote speaker, panelists, volunteers, community partners, supporters, allies, and of course, all of you joining us this evening. Thank you for helping make this celebration of women, leadership, and community possible. To officially begin our celebration, we will hear a few words from our host, OneEleven, a space where Canada's top tech communities grow and scale together. Kate Tom is the Director of Operations at OneEleven. Okay, I can continue. Okay, now it is my pleasure to introduce an exceptional leader, Citlali Rio. Citlali is a proud Mexican-Canadian trilingual professional in social innovation, business strategy, and no-profit governance. She is passionate about diversity, equity, women's empowerment, and sustainability. In her current role, Citlali promotes digital transformation for businesses through innovation and technology implementation. In addition, she loves networking, mentoring, and supporting the Latino community in Canada. As Hispanotech president, she is responsible for leading the board of directors and for strategic planning and direction. She also volunteers for a few other associations, such as Enlace Community Link, where she supports temporary agricultural workers in Canada, ensuring their rights are guaranteed and their working conditions are optimal. Let's give Citlali a warm welcome, please.
Thanks, Dairy. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Thanks for coming, even with the rain and the cold. I am so happy and proud of everyone behind this event. I am so happy to see all of you and so many familiar faces and also a few new ones. I am so thrilled that you decided to spend your evening with us. I am just happy about that. And thanks everyone for supporting us financially or just volunteering or just sharing the information we produce for you. This is invaluable all the time. I appreciate that. I don't want to be glum, but this event is still necessary, and I wish for the time that it's not necessary anymore. So a little bit about the reasoning behind producing an event like this is that, unfortunately, women are still behind in many different sectors. There's several pay gaps. And welcome, Wendy. I wanted to say that inequality is not abstract. It is measurable, ongoing, and in too many cases, deadly. Globally, the United Nations reports that one woman or girl is killed every 10 minutes by an intimate partner or family member. But this is not only a global issue, it is happening here in Canada. According to Statistics Canada, between 2011 and 2021, there were 1,125 gender-related homicides of women and girls in Canada, and 2/3 were committed by an intimate partner. Disturbingly, rates are more than twice as high in rural and northern communities, and Indigenous women continue to be disproportionately affected. In 2024 alone, the Canadian Femicide Observatory for Justice and Accountability documented 187 women and girls killed by violence, with the vast majority of accused being men, and over 3/4 of the killings occurring in private homes. Violence does not begin with a single act. It grows in systems that tolerate inequality. That same inequality shows up economically. In Canada, women participate in the labor force at record levels, yet they earn about 87 cents for every dollar earned by a man, according to the Government of Canada. The gap is wider for Indigenous, Black, racialized newcomer women and women with disabilities. I wanted to present this Equal Pay Day. If you are not aware of that, it's happening soon. Equal Pay Day marks how far into the next year women must work to earn what men earned the year before. So in Canada, Equal Pay Day typically falls in early to mid-April, meaning women work more than 3 additional months for the same pay. In 2024, women had to work until April 9th on average to catch up. These gaps limit choices, they increase economic dependence, and they make it harder for women to live unsafe situations. This is not just about women in STEM, though that work is still critical. This is about gender equity everywhere, in the trades, caregiving, leadership, policy, technology, and community spaces. And let me be clear, men must be involved at every stage. So I'm so happy to see a lot of men here today, a little bit because I was pushing for women to bring their significant others and friends and family members, because men should not just be observing. It shouldn't be the exception. You should be co-creators of a safer, fairer system for everyone. Events like this are not symbolic, but unfortunately still necessary. Awareness is the first step toward accountability. Thank you again for being here and for being part of this change that Canada and the world needs. And have a great time. Thank you. And now I have the privilege to invite our main sponsor, eCampus Ontario, represented today by a few members of eCampus, but today we have Robert Luke, Chief Executive Officer of eCampus, to give us a quick message, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming here. Thank you for the introduction. That's a fairly sobering way to start it, and it is unfortunate that we have to have these kind of events in that way. eCampus Ontario is committed to increasing digital participation in education and the economy, and this kind of event exemplifies that commitment. And I think I just want to call out the good work that you're doing, Citlali and Derry and everybody else, to encourage women to participate in our economy. In a world of tech bros and accelerated algorithmic capital, it's really essential that we empower women to take a leading role in the co-design of the technologies that mediate our everyday life. It is quite essential that we all, men especially, to your point, Citlali, that we show up and we stand up and we support equity and really what we can do to create a just and equitable society. So I'm really pleased to be here to support this event, and thank you to Alianza Latina and Hispanotech for standing up this important event. Thank you all. Again for coming, and Citlali, thank you for your leadership. It's truly inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for your support. We really appreciate it. Nushat Bashir, she is analyst with Innovation for Defense, Excellence and Security Program. She is here to talk about opportunities for innovators and businesses to help solve challenges for national defense and security issued by the Department of National Defense. Please, this.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just want to thank, firstly, Citlali and your team for having us be one of the partners for this event. My name is Nujat Bashir, and I am with the Innovation for Defense Excellence and Security Program, or IDEAS for short. If you're interested, I would encourage you to go onto their website because it is a great program, and it is aimed at pretty much anyone who is a great problem solver, great at tinkering and providing solutions. So if you feel like you have a knack for solving problems and they're of military or defense nature, and a lot of the people here in this building might be involved in that. So yeah, if you're a startup, business, academia, individual, or anyone involved in a company that may be involved in dual-use products, you might be able to submit a proposal in response to one of the challenges that get posted. So this program is really neat. They post challenges time to time. There's actually one closing April 2nd, so it might be a bit late for that one, but still have a look. It's on quantum and uncrewed systems if you're in that space. But there will be more challenges coming up because they just increased a lot of the funds to go towards this program, a lot of the budget. So we should hopefully see more challenges coming out throughout the year. And if you're interested, they are all posted publicly on the IDEAS website. And there's a great mailing list. If you subscribe, you hear about them in your inbox and you get to forward it to relevant people who might be more into those topics. So if you want, do reach out. I'll be here a bit later in the day, but I do want to just share the program and a few of the upcoming challenges with you. So best is to go see them on the website because it would be too much technical info for me to share right now. But yeah, thank you all, and I hope you have a great event.
Thank you. Thank you, Nushat. Okay, now we have our host, Kate Tom. So it's another woman. We heard some words from her. Please welcome Kate with a big applause.
Hi, everyone. I think I missed my roll call earlier. I'm sorry. So my name's Kate. I'm the Director of Operations here at OneEleven. So if you don't know, OneEleven is home to a community of scaling tech entrepreneurs. We have about 40 companies here that are all scaling tech companies. If you have questions about office rentals or space rentals here, we love to host events like this. Happy to answer those questions. But welcome to OneEleven. I hope you enjoy your stay here or your time stay. I don't know.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Kate, for hosting us this evening as well. Okay, we now move into one of the most meaningful segments of this evening, our panel discussion, Women in STEM, Journey, Realities, and Lesson Learned. This conversation will be moderated by Crystal Almanzar. Crystal is a trilingual professional with a background in public administration and project coordination, currently working with the City of Mississauga, committed to community engagement and professional development. Crystal serves as the volunteer coordinator for Hispanotech, where she assists in bridging the gap for newcomers professionals in Canada. Her academic foundation includes a master's degree in management from l'Université du Mans, France, and a bachelor in business administration from Intec University, Dominican Republic. Together with Crystal, we will have our panelists, Karen Wonders, Miryam Lazarte, and Yeneir Vera. Please make a noise and welcome Crystal and our panelists.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here, and thank you very much as well as to our panelists. Actually, the privilege is mine when Citlali told me to, would you like to moderate a panel? And I was like, that is in 2 days. Yes, why not? Then I was able to read a little bit more about you, all of you, and for real, the privilege is mine to be presenting you. But enough about me. I will try to present you the best way I can because I know all of you have done so many things. So I will start with Miryam Lazarte. Is the founder and CEO of Global Startups Accelerator, helping international tech companies scale into North America. She's also a general partner at GSA Ventures, investing in tech startups led by immigrants. As a passionate advocate for inclusive innovation, she was named one of the 10 most influential Hispanic Canadians in 2022. Please, an applause for Miryam. As well as Karen Wonders is the president of La Luz Consulting, which means the light. As an engineer turned executive leadership coach, she bridges the gap between technical expertise and human connection, helping professionals evolve into transformational leaders. She's also deeply committed to her community, actively mentoring young women in engineering. Please. And Yeneir Vera is a cardiologist. She is also a family medicine specialist, a senior research associate at the Allianza for Human Development with the Sinai Health System. Her research focuses on how early life exposures influence adult health and chronic disease. She leads major international research collaborations between Canada and Cuba, aiming to expand this network across Latin America. Please. After these beautiful introductions, I would like to ask you a question to all of you. What drew you into STEM, and was this path always clear to you? You can start.
So good evening, everyone. So thank you, Citlali, and everybody who invited me to be here in the stage. So STEM for me wasn't clear because I was, I live in Cuba. I was trained in Cuba as a physician and as a cardiologist. So for me, STEM was like a big picture. I was just wondering why people got sick, why diseases, show up, how the human bodies works. So in Cuba, all of this curiosity led me through medicine, and after medicine led me through research. And I think that the path for me wasn't clear from the beginning, but as soon as I studied more in science and I knew more, so I decided to expand. And so dedicate all my career mostly in research. So this was for me, maybe for other people was more clear from the beginning, but I think that as soon as you live and work, other fields show up in your life, and this was STEM for me.
Thank you very much. And Miryam?
Yeah, for me also was very, not the first thing that I thought I will have done, I'm a graphic designer and an international business professional, so none of that really related with STEM. But my my third job in Canada was actually with a technology company in Vancouver, back in Vancouver, and that actually exposed me to, the last technology for infrastructure and some other projects, and it was very interesting to see what they were doing there. And they were working with Latin America, and I had the opportunity to actually travel to Latin America and see some other technology from Latin America. And then is when I realized that, the amazing talent that we have in Latin America developing new technologies. And, it was quite a surprise to me how much we have in common with Canada and with the US. And in many ways, and from technology perspective, we are not as behind as people think. And yeah, that was totally an inspiration. I've been working in this for 10 years.
Thank you very much, Miryam. And Karen?
So I don't think I was drawn into it. I think I was born into it. Since I remember loving math, and my dad used to quiz us at the dinner table for our math table so that we can be very quick at, I don't know if you guys did that, but my dad did that. And so I always knew I wanted to do something with math. And then as I grew older, I fell in love with chemistry, with biology. So in my mind, I wanted to be a doctor. And when I moved to Canada, I had to decide where to go to university. And that's really when I discovered engineering. And for me, it was, I can go into biomedical engineering and going to medical school afterwards. So it was a better avenue for me because I loved all the process, all the systems, all that engineering involved. And so once I started engineering, I realized I really didn't want to go few more years of school, so I dropped the medical school idea and I went into manufacturing engineering instead.
Thank you very much to all of you for your answers. Now with Miryam, I would like to ask you, what has been the non-technical challenge, but that has had the major impact in your career progression?
I guess mentality. Mentality is a big challenge. Sometimes you don't understand how limited yourself you can be to really achieve or progress in life. Professionally speaking, you can be whatever you want. You can convince other people that you can be capable to do that, but the first person that you have to convince is yourself. And be sure that you know what you're doing, you know what you're capable of, and I think, getting into that type of mentality that, you're capable to achieve whatever you are proposing to yourself is very, very difficult. And demonstrating yourself every other time, and not lashing back to yourself when something wrong happens is another thing. It happens many times, especially between women, I will say more frequently, that we lash ourselves more or harder when something goes wrong. So yes, it's, that mentality barrier, I think, is something that has been work in progress for many, many years.
Thank you very much, and I agree with that. And Yeneir, you're a physician scientist leading international research collaborations. How do you balance scientific rigor, leadership, and advocacy, especially as a woman in research and medicine?
You can imagine that it's not easy. Coming from, from another country, I came from Cuba when I was already a physician, a cardiologist, so I arrived here in Canada and I have to reinvent it myself. So doing all of this research and this collaboration internationally, it's more like it's not just balance, but also integrating how, for example, rigor of the science that we are doing. We have to be very careful that everything keeps like a really, in the higher level, in the higher standards. Also the advocacy that, everything that we are doing and the research that we are doing is not just to get results or publish a paper. It's just to translate this knowledge and be able to apply these scientific results to policies and change countries. How the Ministry of Health of different Latin American countries can apply these results at the national level is what we want to do. It's not just to get results and publish papers, and this is, something that we have been seeing, in the publications and the research that sometimes Canada is doing. For us, it's more than that. That is why, for me specifically, so advocacy, the rigor of the scientific knowledge that we are producing is so important, and integrate all of these is our goal. And to expand more, not just Cuba, the main projects that we have right now are in Cuba, but also in the rest of Latin America.
Thank you very much. And Karen, with working with technical professionals, what is one leadership skill in women in STEM often underestimate, but desperately need to be developed?
So I like to start with, I was in the tech industry for many, many years. And regardless of the technical design, one thing that I learned was that it was the people that made a project or a department or a company successful. And a skill that is completely underestimated is emotional intelligence. And it is a skill, and it's not about being nice, it's not about ignoring conflict, it's not about just staying silent. For me, that emotional intelligence is what allows you to lead with confidence. It allows you to connect, to have a presence, to have an influence, to align with people, align with others, align with business, and ultimately helps you make those decisions that are grounded in clarity.
Thank you very much. And following up on that, how do you think women can build influence even without formal authority, which is something that pretty much all the women have to deal with?
So one thing I believe is that leadership doesn't need a title. And unfortunately, influence has such a negative rep. People think it's about manipulating, about being Machiavellic. But influence is really about understanding the person in front of you. So you're asking, how can we build that influence? And both of you mentioned the word curiosity. And that's what I think it's our superpower. Curiosity is what allows us to not only understand what's going on from a technical standpoint, but be curious about the person who is in front of you. Because when you understand their perspectives, you will see that you're building that connection. So I just want to ask the audience, how many of you, and this might be personal or professional, listen to facts? So if somebody comes to you and they're giving you a story, you're already building that solution in your mind. Anybody can relate to that? I can see a few hands in there. And that's when we have that problem solver hat on. And that's when we're not listening, we're listening to fix. So that's the biggest shift that we can do in understanding what the other person is about. What's their perspective? Why are they asking us to do this? What's their idea about? So to me, that's the fastest way to build influence, because you're connecting and you're having that presence that somebody trusts you because you listen to them.
Thank you very much. Now continue with Miryam. I would like to know who played a pivotal role in your career as a mentor, a sponsor, or community, and what specifically did they do that made a difference?
So many people. I will just point it out to you, just because I think both of them, this is kind of like good examples of people that you can get in the market. First, what you may expect, my mom. She is a wonderful professional, impossible to work with. I couldn't work with her. Was the worst boss ever. Thank God she doesn't speak English, so if anyone is recording, I always tell her that she was the worst boss ever. But at the same time, I learned so much from her, and how not to run a company in particular. But of course, my first believer, we always disagree. In management, we always agree that, we can do so much together. So the first person that I think it was a role model, how stubborn and in particular a strong person can be, for many things. In the second person, I would like to say, if people that have believed in me, when I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, like Valerie Fox or Victoria Lennox, both of them. Valerie Fox, for those that don't know, she was the person that created the MC Ryerson. I don't know how many of you know the MC Ryerson here. The MC Ryerson is the #1 business incubator in the world. It was located like that a couple of years ago. She was one of the persons that, kind of believed in what I was building here. And she said, I'm going to be helping you be your board of directors and all that. And Victoria Lennox was, the person who brought me back to Canada when I left and I met her in Chile, and she said, Miryam, you can do something amazing in Toronto. And she brought me here. She introduced me with a wonderful amount of people. Without her, I wouldn't have Global or GS Ventures after. I think she's responsible for many things that I've done, but she met me in my lowest point career-wise, and she was like, "No, girl, you can do it. Let me show you the path." So it was wonderful.
Thank you, Miryam. And I love that it's literally women supporting women. If I could ask the same question to you, Yeneir, what has been that person that has been pivotal in your career as a mentor or as a person?
So I had a lot of people back in my country, in Cuba. Not all of them were women. A lot of men during, my professors. And also, I will not say just people, but the system. So when you are working, or in my case, as a physician, I was doing this profession not just for money. We were doing this because we believe, in change the system, free access, healthcare for everybody. So this was something that I learned from a lot of professors. The passion for my career, and it was not just one person. I would not say that was just my family or my mom, because it was not the case, but was the people and the system. And here in Canada, when I arrived, I met an extraordinary researcher that passed away. Probably you heard about him, Fraser Mostert. Fraser Mostert was an unbelievable human being, and he showed me that you have to think outside the box always. So you are a physician, and of course we were trained to help people and cure diseases and do some research, but he showed me that all the knowledge that I had can be used in the transdisciplinary research that Canada needed and the whole world needed. So he showed me a different world, and honestly, without his influence, I couldn't change. So I saw that another path was possible. And by the way, after he passed away, we found the Fraser Mostert, the Human Development Institute at U of T, and we were doing for a long time transdisciplinary research, which was really important for me. Yeah, a lot of women, but also I have to mention a lot of men were influencing me back in my country and here in Canada.
Thank you very much to both. And we definitely sometimes need someone who believes more in ourselves when we are at our lowest. And following that, I would like to ask you all of you, what is in one sentence the advice that you would have loved to receive, but you didn't receive at the time you were developing your career or experience? Karen? Thank you.
I would say that don't wait until you have to find a new role to network. I would say it's something that you want to do through your entire career. Build those relationships, find mentors, find sponsors, but do it throughout your entire career, not just at certain points in time.
Thank you very much.
Learn to manage success. I think, people normally teach you in not saying that I'm a successful person, by the way, but there are times in your life when success comes when you are not expecting success. And sometimes, you can perfectly sabotage yourself in not knowing how to manage those situations. And I think I was over-prepared for failure, always. I'm always prepared for crisis, failure, those kind of things, bring it on, I'm ready for it. But when it was success, I was struggling to get to know how to manage this and how to, continue overcoming in learning that path. That's still a work in progress learning. But I wish somebody says, hey, success will come, and this is something that you have to think about how you're going to manage that.
Okay, thank you so much, Yeneir.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% that one of the things, and I want to mention this because there are a lot of Latinos women here today, like me, and when we are in a different country and a different culture, it's difficult for us break the ice to make connections and look for sponsors and think outside the box. Even if you have a career from your countries, different careers, you have to think always, what is the knowledge that I have, what is the expertise that I have, and how can I use all of these, finding the new path. I think that if I had this knowledge since I arrived here, I think that I lost time because of this.
Well, thank you so much. At the end of the day, we have to trust in ourselves and be ready for success. And what is the one change that organization, universities, or leaders should do right now to make or advance or retain more women in STEM? What do you think is the thing that organizations should be doing right now to retain women on STEM?
I will say something very unpopular here. Don't kill me. In my case, because I've been working with technology companies for a long time, I work majority with guys, right? I have, of course, 27% of our population are women. But it's not like, they are being stopped by, in my experience, okay? It's not like they are being stopped by becoming a part of a community. It's more that there are not that many. I think we need to produce more and also to motivate more women to enter into the space. And again, believe in themselves, because when, for example, I'm an investor right now. I'm putting checks on companies and preparing people for getting investable. And many times I see so wonderful companies from women, but they don't have the confidence sometimes to pitch or to do. They lack of a lot of things, but I think it's probably mentality, society, whatever. I feel like we don't have enough, but that's not a necessary, a thing that there's not a space there, in my opinion. It's more like there are not that many.
Okay. And Karen?
I think for me, it will be for the industry itself to ask women to stop following somebody else's footsteps. So if I could just bring you back probably to a snowy day, or maybe we'll do the beach so that we don't have to remember about winter this year. But if you see a set of footsteps and you try to follow them, you will find very quickly that their stride is different, their pace is different, it feels awkward, and it's not natural. And that's what we ask women to do in our industry. We ask them to follow a roadmap that is not themselves. They're not being themselves. And so one thing we can do is to start thinking about how can we build environments where women are feeling safe to voice their opinion and to be successful in their own way, that they don't have to follow the one-size-fits-all mentality and those expectations that we have to do it a certain way. So when we start opening up the diversity, when we start opening up those perspectives, that's really when we invite more people in, because people are feeling safe to do so.
Thank you so much, Yeneir.
I think, in my opinion, when you look at the, for example, institutions like research institutes, like these kind of places, maybe universities, and I will not, generalize all the universities. I think that we pass the phase of awareness that women needs more opportunities. Everybody knows that women needs more opportunities, but it's not the opportunity to work. It's the opportunity to be promoted. It's the opportunity to lead. Because if we are not the leaders of any project, any business, in the case of entrepreneurships. So what is the option? What is the really, we are working as part of the team, but we are not leading, we are not being promoted. So it's to transmit this confidence to the rest of the women that is possible, that we are at the same level that the most prepared men, like there is no difference, we are equals. And I think that we have to fight for this in every place that we are working, and promote and talk to other women is the at least in my way to influence my visions, to influence other women doing whatever they want. Research, being entrepreneur, or open NGOs, like they can do it, and they have to be more confident.
Thank you very much for such, all of you, amazing reminder to be more confident and to go for it. And this is the last question. In one word or phrase, what does success in STEM mean to you today? What does it mean being successful in STEM for you? Miryam.
If we are talking about money, technology will always talk about money. Become a unicorn or be acquired, like that, get into $1 billion in valuation or be acquired by anyone else. Normally, that's kind of success, how translate to startups. For investors like me, investing in those unicorns, companies that are acquired. But yeah, it depends. For every single person, it's different. If I'm talking in my sector, that's what success looked like.
Thank you. Karen?
I think for me, the one sentence would be, we are the value. We're in a world of AI. We're in a world where you can learn anything at your fingertips. So if we remember that we are the value, we're the one bringing that value, then that's going to take us a little further.
Thank you so much.
In my case, I think that I will say STEM transforming policies or creating impact in countries. It's how we use the scientific knowledge to honestly make an impact in the world.
Thank you very much. And for me, all of you so successful in STEM as women. And I just want to close this panel saying that we have to be as women more confident. We have to go for it. We need to go for it for other generations because we are in our moment, no matter how old you are or how young you are, this is your moment to go for it. And I think they are living testimony that if you go for it, you can be successful. And thank you so much for sharing this panel. And for me, it was an honor. And please, an applause to our panelists.
I'll take it. Sorry. It's okay. Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you, Cristal, for this conversation. I think that we have a lot of insight. So one of them is, as a women, we need to be confident. We need, as a women also, we need to support women as well. So I'm very sure that we will strong in this work as well. So now, we move into another very special moment of this evening. We are honored to welcome Alana Curran, who will be sharing her journey as a woman in tech. After her talk, she will also join Citlali for a fireside chat. Alana Curran is an award-winning tech leader, author, and speaker. With over 25 years in tech, including over 2 decades at Google, Alana led the charge to develop, scale, build, and drive team and product development, impacting billions of users globally. Alana has spoken at conferences and summits on technology, leadership, talent, and innovation. Her best-selling book, Adventures of Women in Tech, has received awards and been praised for its insightful stories. A second edition entitled Navigating the Hard Tech Era launched in November 2025, and a follow-up workbook was released in 2022. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with her family. Please join me in warmly welcoming Alana Curran.
Thank you. I was watching and seeing whether the technology would catch up by the time I got up here. That was well done. Well, congratulations, everyone, for coming out on a Tuesday. That's already so successful. How long do I have? How long do you want to give me? You can have 25 minutes. Perfect. All right, we're gonna start. Beautiful. Because I could talk for hours, but I also know I want to just track. And then we have the fireside chat. 25. Perfect. All right. Hello. The glasses are not for fashion. It's really so I can see your faces. But let me know if the glare or anything, just like wave at me if it looks weird. I am Alana Karen. I'm going to do a quick intro next. I always like to start here because it makes me look fancy. But it's not just that. I actually like to do it because, number one, I think that it can seem like when someone gets up here and is a keynote speaker that it is very fancy and it's very far away and it's not very achievable, and that they must have something special that you don't. Unless there's like maybe 5% of people who think they're more special than me, keep that to yourself. But mostly, people will look up at this and feel like that person must have some secret sauce. And this is where I reveal that, no, it just took a while. And I had to decide at some point to put myself up on stage and start talking about my experience. I started off growing up in New Jersey, which is on the East Coast, midway down of the US. It's not special in any particular way. In fact, most people make fun of New Jersey. I grew up without a lot of money, and I never particularly thought I was going to do anything special. I studied history and French in college, which is pretty much a way to know nothing, right? Like no sense at any point that I would have money when I even wrote poetry, guys. Like, I wrote poetry and fiction. There was no sense at all that I was going to have any money. But it was the time period that got me. It was the late 90s, to date myself. I was in college, and I started to teach myself HTML because I was interested in this intersection of technology and creativity. This idea of like, ooh, what could you now produce really quickly on computers, and how could you convey that information in a way that you were never able to before? And I talked to professors who had no idea what I was doing. I passed in term papers as internet. Guys, it was weird. It was weird. It was the late 90s. A bunch of you weren't alive. It doesn't matter. The point is, I was doing something that no one else had done before, and it felt good. And I talked my way into a webmaster job at my college after I graduated, and that led me down this tech path. Next slide. That looked like that. I like to make it look like it's a ladder. It really wasn't. It was kind of choppy. It was kind of weird. But we start with the original book that I actually used in the late 90s to teach myself HTML. HTML for Dummies. You can still find it out there. I did actually do a startup that failed. After I was at the University of Webmaster, I did a startup that failed in the San Francisco Bay Area. But then I joined Google, and I was on the front lines of our ads product. I was your customer service rep. In 2001, if you emailed Google trying to use Google Ads, and you wrote in French, I mean, most of you wouldn't have, but I'm just saying, if you did, I was the one who had to respond to you. And guys, my French was fine, but not native. But I got in the door partially because I knew French. So I was answering in French, I was answering mostly in English, and pretty soon after I started, I took a job around policy. What ads we accept, what we don't accept. That accelerated. That was really my first 10 years, building out a big team at Google to do that. Then I joined Google Fiber, our ultra-fast broadband product. It's not in Canada, hadn't made it here yet, but it was a great opportunity for me to take those initial skills and build them out from scratch for a startup within Google. and I built out customer service and installs then. And then finally, I ended up at Google Search. That's what that big logo was. And I ran program management for search infrastructure. There's absolutely nothing about those things that sound the same, does it? But I, over time, defined my career path very much as I am a leader and I am an operations expert. So when I would interview for whatever it was you were hiring, I would be like, I'm your go-to person. I know how to lead people, I know how to lead groups, and I know how to get things done. And that was my currency of figuring that out. Okay, next slide. So the really common question is, why did I write a book? I was humming along, I was managing people at Google, I was building teams, and I was figuring out what infrastructure for Google search looked like. It's a mess. And there was job security, or so it seemed. So why start writing books? And I think the easy answer, and it's in the book jacket, is that I just got annoyed. I got annoyed that I wasn't seeing the book that I wanted to see. It covered lots of different women's journeys, all different levels at companies, all different roles, all different ways of thinking about their careers, ambitions, technical roles, non-technical roles, just all the different colors of the rainbow. What I was seeing was a lot of stories about, a woman who made it to the tippy top. And again, what I was hearing a lot when I would talk to women at events like this, they would joke in the back of the room with the snacks afterwards. They would say things to each other like, oh, you didn't wake up at 5 a.m. to do hot yoga? Because what the problem was a lot of the stories about the tippy top, I see a little bit of nodding out there, the people sound like maniacs, right? Like they were just like type A++++, all the way through school, doing all the things. They survive on like 4 hours of sleep, maybe like caffeine, probably some other stuff. But in any case, they're doing things like you're not even thinking about, and again, it's just so far away from what you can understand. And I wanted to write something where like everyone could open this book and read a story that resonated with them. And also, it was the Me Too era. And a lot of stories were being shared around 2018, 2019. And it was the darker side of what had been happening in companies, not just in the tech industry, but elsewhere, about how women had been treated and abused. And those stories were really important to come out. However, I saw in the news media, they were being used as a chilling effect. So the headlines would be like, oh, do women belong in tech? ? Should women join tech? Are tech jobs right for women? Who does that serve when we do that? Not the women, right? Like, listen, lots of industries suck, everyone. Lots of I never talked to anyone in automobile and had them tell me, oh, it's better here. No, they were like, no, that sounds like what I know. I never talked to anyone in finance, banking, consumer goods, lawyers, doctor. Literally nowhere is like great for, even teachers will be like, you know what happens as you start to become a principal at a school? Oh, all of a sudden that's where all the men are. They're not in the classroom, they're being principals at school. So you see it in the leadership ranks, even if you don't see it in the rank and file. Anyway, I was clearly annoyed. I wrote a whole book. I call it Google Hubris because I just thought, oh, I can do it, right? Speaking to the women, like just, you feel the success, you're just like, fine, I'll do it. As I was touring, and sorry, we had to save it as a PDF, so you're missing some animation. What was behind there was just basically, how can we at our root feel like we're successful if we don't belong? Okay, so that was what like the cute little thing you're missing is. But this workbook was born out of people asking me, well, okay, great, how? right? I would be there and they'd be like, fine, you seem to have great confidence. How do you build it? You found a support network. How did you find it? You built up the ability to ask for what you want and what you need, right? The women in your book say they got there after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. How do I do it now? How do I carry my awesome with me no matter where I go? And how do I market myself in an environment that tends to penalize women when we brag? So I grabbed a bunch of other women and I wrote a workbook about it. You see the pattern. Okay, next slide. If I wrote such a perfect book to begin with, why did I have to write another one? That was a joke, guys. Oh, stay with me. Fast forward 5 years, and I really didn't feel like I'd captured everything. And what I had already sort of nagged me that I'd missed was that I hadn't really talked about the system, which is tech, the systemic injustices, the systemic problems that we see across how we hire and build these companies. And there was already a diminishing trust in these companies, both from consumers, but also employees, certainly governments. So I hadn't really covered any of that as I was really focused on this belonging journey. So I was already feeling that that was missing. And then at the same time, fast forward 5 years, you really saw a really big culture and environment shift at the tech companies. Even the big ones, especially the big ones. What went from sort of like a nirvana of creativity. I mean, you know, you saw the news articles, bouncy balls, lava lamps. Didn't even sound like they were working, right? So what went from what seeming like a nirvana turned into, oh, they sent another email firing everyone with no notice. And so just a really big change, and a really big change amongst the people who I spoke with as well, who felt like almost this heartbreak, as if out of the blue, the lovely boyfriend that you had dumped you, and there was no warning. So I kind of wrote the book where I was like, guys, there was a warning. There was. Like, we weren't totally paying attention to all of these signs as they happened. And chapter 1 is a little bit about what was happening as these companies adulted and shifted and changed, and what was even happening in the startups as it got tougher to raise money and exist. And then what happens with trust when that environment changes, and then ultimately, what does it mean for you? I'm gonna give you a little bit of a cheat guide to that today. Next slide. Because even though I want you to read the book, just in case you don't, here is my guide to kind of what's going on or where you may be. I don't know if you all work at tech companies. This may still resonate for you if you don't. You can tell me later. Okay, next. When I was talking to people, and later on I did a survey, I didn't want to assume that what my experience was in tech after being 23 years at Google, deciding to leave because I didn't enjoy where it was going and I no longer enjoyed my everyday job. I didn't want to assume that was everyone's experience. And so I did a survey checking on where people were. And generally I found them in 3 states. Generally everyone. I did a survey, right? It had some response, like there's the usual disclaimers about data. I say it like this because I worked at Google for 20 years and people would yell at you if you didn't back up your data with like a very sound argument. And I'm just here to say it was a survey, it's indicative, it will not define all of you. You are special snowflakes, every color of the sun. But hopefully it will resonate with you. Next slide. Also, let me call out again. Can you tell I did this for 20 years? There are complicating factors. that you may feel that even if you were in this place right now, you don't feel like you can do all the things that you would love to do to move yourself out of that place, to stay in that place, to fully capture the opportunities of that space. And I'm here to tell you that that is okay. Sometimes it is good to know where you are so you can make a plan A while you stay in plan B. That can help you in the future, even if it is not your moment now. Okay, next thing. So let me go through each of those paths I showed really quickly. Continuing. This turned out to be about 60% of people that I surveyed. So a meaningful chunk of people who I surveyed were still in tech, were still in their jobs in tech, and I don't know if I would call them thriving, but they were in it to win it. They still saw a path for themselves, they still saw opportunity, and they were excited for where they were. You can see an example quote from a person here. They're remaining. I feel like it gives a good ingredients for what good would look like. Their day-to-day still makes them happy. They like who they work with. They have leaders who trust them. That's code word that they're not micromanaged. And they interface with people who they can tell they impact. They can feel that they're having an impact. Okay, that's ingredients for a great job. And a lot of the people in this bucket felt that. Now, hotspots that I go through in my chapters are about what do they do to continue that? How, in a tougher environment, are they now setting expectations with their management? How are they watching for what might be shifting rapidly in their environment, for what opportunities, what changing investments are happening? How are they staying on top of maybe what they should learn or the opportunities they should ask for? And during this period of time, you're gonna have to adapt. And it's gonna not always be comfortable. Humans are very good at adaptation. We will naturally get there. It doesn't mean there won't be days where you go home and you feel entirely fatigued and uninterested in it. There are definitely going to be those days. And so how do you continue to sustain during those periods of time? Next slide. Shifting. This encompassed another, I want to say like 20% or so of folks who were in some state of change. Some of it was personally driven. They were looking for different opportunity. Some of it was because something had happened to them. A reorg, a layoff, some kind of shift that they couldn't control. And reasons really did vary. You see all the usual things here, all the usual suspects: politics, role stagnancy, various company policies that have been rapidly changing during this period of time, and layoffs. Now, the hotspots for these folks are actually what I thought I would have to spend a lot of time on, because what I was seeing was a lot of people really struggling with accepting that this is what was happening. That the companies had in fact changed, that the companies were doing layoffs, that nice boyfriend that you'd had before was never coming back. And they really were taking different amounts of time, and this is the truth of the change curve. The change curve will show you that over time, we'll get to a better place. But you can get really stuck in the initial parts of the change curve. If you look up change curve on Google, you essentially go through the same stuff you've always heard about, like disbelief, shock, and then you get into anger, my personal favorite. This is when you may fire off those like very tactless emails at midnight, right? So anger, you then get into a sort of depression. You accept it, but you are very sad about it. And there's no energy. You're not excited about the future. And then gradually you come up the other side. What I was seeing was a lot of people who were stuck here. And they kind of never got out of it. You know, they'd get maybe to apathy, and then someone would post something who was like an idiot on LinkedIn, and that idiot would have gotten promoted, and they'd be like right back in the anger, right? Like just right back, they fired me and that idiot just got promoted, right? So I was seeing a lot of that, and like, how do you work through that to get to the other side? And like, how are you eating ice cream with your girlfriends, talking about how they suck, and then getting to the other side so you can get excited about something? What is sometimes making that hard is that often what helps us get over a past relationship is getting a new one. Absolutely, right? We never really get over someone until we find a new boyfriend. And the current labor market might make us stagnate for a period. It might take longer to find that next gig. And so what are the best things that you can do to position yourself for a tough labor market? And then lastly, very important, are you now willing to adjust what you define as success or what level of risk you take on? Because in a much more favorable hiring market, you might have been able to get the work from home job, the best salary, and the position you wanted. Now, you may only be able to get one of those things. There might be other things that you have to think about in order to navigate this period of time. You may have to accept that even the biggest companies are not truly safe, that there is a risk element no matter what. And then lastly, if you really want to jump the shark, next slide, you can go into the transforming mode. And honestly, this just means you're done. You're so done. You don't even know what's next sometimes, but you're so done. You want more, you're tired of wherever you are, your current gig isn't it, and you don't look around that company and see anything else you'd want to do, right? You are just so thoroughly done. And people in this bucket were all over the place, all over the place. And listen, I know people who truly jumped the shark, who left tech and became therapists, probably because they met a lot of people who needed therapy, who started gardening companies, who, I'm just like an oyster shucker. I follow on Instagram. She got laid off and she's like, I'm just gonna go oyster shuck at San Francisco parties, right? You can really, but I will say that most people fall into a bucket where they are figuring out what's next, leveraging their skills from before, right? Like they're teaching in academia about product because they built product for a long time. Okay, next. So I say all of that, and I've got about 3 minutes to go through, I don't know, arguably more important slides, but don't worry about it. What would we do the next morning? And I don't really have, like, you again, so many special snowflakes, I can't tell you. But I wanted to give a little bit of industry info to maybe help direct you and help you think about what that might be. Next. Next. Okay. We talked a little bit about this already, and so I'm not going to belabor them too much. Thank you, panel. But if you are looking within tech and looking for opportunity, I think it would be wise to look more about where money is flowing. For a long time, I think there was an environment where like anyone with a sexy idea sounded like maybe they would get somewhere. I think now you really need to pay a lot of attention to what is actually earning money, especially if you would like to be safe. If you correlate anything with having routine income, the money has to come from somewhere. And for a while, I think we lost that in tech. If someone seemed to be taking off and getting a lot of funding, then that made it sexy and it was worth spending time on. But funding is not earning revenue. We do understand this, right? You want your product to make money independently, not just be an idea that was sexy enough for 5 bros to fund. The 5 bros have a notoriously bad hit rate on what's actually successful, probably because they all usually are white with like singular interests. Now, I will tell, if you want to join a Fitbit-esque company that has 5 bros behind it, you're right in the zone. But if you're looking at women's health, right? If you're looking at places where India startups are taking off because they are focused right on the India market, right? You want to look for a variety of things and you want to look for where that money is. That's true within big companies too. Where is the money going? Next. Okay, whatever, bros. Soft skills are still what's going to help you survive and navigate this time. It is the savviness, it is the sensitivity to your environment. And by the way, women in general are trained by society to be better at observing, adapting, and understanding our environments. So if we get back to the theme of tonight, just know this is a skill set that women tend to have a leg up on. Not to insult all the men in the room, you could be super sensitive. But I'm just saying, as a general societal thing, women are trained to figure out how not just to go into a room and tell people what to do, but how to influence the right outcomes. Next. This came up a little bit before too. I do think that this is a great opportunity for a tech renaissance. You have the right ingredients for a real increase in smaller companies with great products. Some of this is because AI lowers the initial cost to get going. You no longer have to get big funding to hire a bunch of engineers to code what you want. You may be able to vibe code to a proof of concept. That was a very hard sentence for me to put together. Vibe code to a proof of concept faster, and therefore lower some of that initial burden. You have a great pool of talented, disenchanted labor being dumped by their ex-boyfriends. Just swoop in with the flowers, with the compliments. They're just waiting for you to see that they have experience and that they would be your next great hire. And I also do want to remind people that there was a real period where like the only way it seemed to launch something was to get angel funding, was to get bigger and bigger, go through Series A, Series B, go public. And I think that that is a way, if you really have, your only thing is you want to be the one unicorn out of thousands. But there are lots of different ways to start a company and to build one. And you will have more control the more private you maintain that. Next. This is my final note. I think that we're in a dangerous period of time where employees are seeing that their employers don't care about them. Not really. And what I find is who has children, you know you can't just say anything in front of a child. They will be repeating that to like the abuela next day, right? You will be in trouble. So similarly, I think we're in an interesting period of time where employees do not trust their leaders. And there's a real opportunity, again, to be the leader that is different and to build that rapport and to potentially do great things with them, or to be sidelined, I think, eventually, as they find something better, as the environment changes. I think I have a last quote. Yeah, this is from my second edition. It's just my final reminder that I think during this period of time, the most important thing you can do is to really think about you and what motivates you, and to to really figure that out. Because I think for a while, companies were able to just look like they were safeguarding our interests, and we were able to outsource that to them. But that's clearly not true anymore. So those are my slides. Lali, you want to come up and interview me?
Thank you, Alana. Okay, so first of all, thanks for coming all the way from the States. Just to see us. I am so thrilled. You want to come up a little bit so the lights on?
No.
Is that better? There? Is it
Also
good?
take those off.
Yeah? Okay. Thank you. So, yes, so thanks for coming. With all the turmoil in the world and a little bit more on your country, I know you're very
I know.
active.
It's all my fault, honestly.
I know. You are actually very active, and you speak out, and I appreciate you for that. Can I share that you participated in the No Kings March?
Oh yeah, Saturday. I was no kingsings.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So I did have two questions, and maybe I can open up for one more from the audience, if that's okay. So this is important because I have the same question as well. So I think the audience might benefit. No, Norman. I think the audience might benefit. How do you advocate for yourself without falling? Better? Or is it me? Yeah? Okay. So I'll start again. How do you advocate for yourself without falling into the various stereotypes associated with women in leadership? So, bossy or,
Right. I mean, I was about to say that I think sometimes I do fall into the patterns. And I don't really care. I am bossy, but it's because I'm right. And it took me a long time to own that. It took me 20 years to be like, hey guys, I think you should listen to me because I've done this for a long time and I'm right. And so I don't always think that we need to downplay our talents. I guess that's what I'm worried about. I don't want you to downplay your talent to appease a societal norm where women are always like, so maybe I just had an idea, I was thinking, right? I do want you to show up and own your place in the room. And I do think that the more you do that, the more people respect that lady does that, right? I don't even know that they always. First of all, I don't know that they're always thinking about us as a woman in a room. They're not even aware that they are maybe scrutinizing us subconsciously more or second-guessing our decisions more. But the more that you own your space, own your ideas, the more you become this other thing to them. And they don't even think, their brain sort of jumps that, and they're no longer subconsciously aware of your vagina. That's at least my opinion. I used my humor a lot. You can tell I use it a lot to say hard things. I think if you can do that well, that has been a great tool for me. If it's not in your tool set or you come across as angry, you can't use it. I can't use it if I'm angry. It comes to, it just is a cruel joke. It just sounds mean if I do it when I'm angry. So you have to know a bunch of things about yourself. And so I think really know yourself, understand your secret sauce, and use it. That's my advice.
Thank you. I love it. And yes, with age, I also started figuring things out easier and not taking myself so seriously. And also, I would add, I don't have time for, naysayers or people that bring me down. So I just wish women learn this early on, at younger age, so we don't suffer as much. And it's not suffering or oppression only from men. We sometimes do it to ourselves, to women. So
I will back that up. I will tell you, I interviewed over 80 women for the first book. The women who I interviewed were who were 45 plus. They were oh, that's their problem. Yep. If they don't listen to me, that's their problem, because I'm amazing. And I was oh, if only I'd had a little bit of that at 20, a little bit of that at 25, a little bit of that at 30, right? So just try to seize future you and be future you would not put up with it.
Yeah. Perfect. That works perfectly, and I wish more younger women attended these events, and we aim to lure them in earlier, because you just can avoid a lot of suffering. It's just self-conscious, self-doubt, a lot of that. I wish it came earlier on in my career. I have known of that now, and you know it. Whoever was at my AGM. You remember I asked for an applause to myself because I became the president, the first lady, the first woman president for Hispanotech, so I really wanted everyone to feel as proud as I was, so I asked for an applause for myself. So there you go.
Absolutely.
Speaking of age, sometimes we have career transitions. How do you navigate those when you are unsure what direction to take next?
I suppose I'm live doing that right now. I left a very established career path to have more of a portfolio lifestyle and hopefully no boss ever again. There are some cons to that, namely no money, but also just a real choppiness. Some weeks are extremely busy and I'm doing multiple things, all very different, and some weeks are very quiet and I think I failed. So I guess what I would live say is that I do truncating, or not truncating exactly, but deciding I have a goal for a specific period of time, right? So if you're trying to navigate a transition, I feel sometimes we put too much on that overall transition. And it's nice to just say in the next 3 months, I want to build these relationships. And it's all about reaching out on LinkedIn or reaching out for intros through colleagues, and it's all about this goal. And then the next 3 months, I am going to send out X resumes or whatever. I'm going to build the business in this specific way. And I'll give an example from my life, which is that I decided that I really like decluttering people's homes. If you are a mini hoarder, you can fly me back out and I will tackle it for you. And I just decided I was gonna you know me now. I'm just gonna go do it, right? Do I have any experience? Did I do anything? No, I've decluttered my house and my friends' houses. They were literally just trying to talk to me, but I opened up their pantry and couldn't stand it. So I have experience. And I just decided I was gonna do this first 3 months, January through the end of March. I sent out this note, made a page on my website, and sent it out just to friends and family. And that's it. Whatever comes in during this period of time to help me learn about this business. And so I think, again, when you're trying to go through a bigger, a transition, even if it seems small to you, oh, I just want a new job, break it down into the sub pieces so that it is manageable, but also you feel progress. You look back at those 3 months and says, yeah, I am in a better place because I built those relationships. And now I'm ready for this 3 months to get my resume in great shape. And now I'm ready to start sending out these feelers, right? And that might be a little longer than you want, so feel, of course, to break it down into weeks versus months. But my point is, break it down.
In your book, you explore a lot of how the women can advocate for themselves or redefine their self-worth. So it's more on the work that we can do as women, I wanted to ask you, what would you advise our systems, our corporations, to bring and have more women in any sector, actually? We are talking about tech, but in any sector, what would you do today differently that to start affecting actual change and sustainable? This is a new question, that's why she's thinking about it.
Well, you just asked it in a slightly different way. I am not actually sure what I would tell the corporations anymore, because I'm fairly convinced that when push comes to shove, corporations are filled with people who will function from their animal brain. And their animal brain will tell them under threat to fight, to flight, to freeze, or to fawn. Those are just like the primary instincts. So if like you were attacked by a bear today, you would probably run. You're actually supposed to look pretty big, but my point is you would probably run. In the corporate atmosphere, we kind of get stuck with different reflexes, everyone coming from their different, some freeze in place, some do fight and get very political, some fly, like let me just leave and go get another job, and some fawn, which is usually looks like brown nosing to you to whatever leader, kiss up to whatever leader. And so, corporations are people too, was said by a presidential candidate in the US once, and we all scoffed. But it is sort of just built by people at their worst. And then so I just don't really think right now is the moment for me to come in with some lofty plan, because I don't think that's where people are. I think they're at a very base level of AI is changing everything. If they're caught up or involved in what's going on in the US, there is a lot of ramifications for that, for the economy and for companies. I just don't think it's a time where I can say this is how you fix your lady problem. But here is what I would say to every leader. If you don't know a diverse set of people, you are hiring the wrong people. Because what you do when times get tough is you hire who's around you. You hire who you trust. You hire the people you know the best. And so if everyone you know looks and sounds the same, you're gonna hire essentially a vacuum for yourself. Like you might as well have hired yourself. Most people are not aware enough to not do that. Just subconsciously, when you interview people, the people who pleased you are most like you. Some people have moved past this, and more props to them. Some people look for the adversary, some people look for something specific, but most people will not. And so I think what I would do right now is tell every leader, it's on you. If you haven't reached out to 10 different people from you on LinkedIn this year, that's on you. And you're mishiring for your company as a result. You don't even know what you're missing. You don't even know the opportunity cost. And all the studies show that it is diversity of thinking that leads to the best decisions. All the business school case studies show it, right? So I don't know what to tell you. If you don't want to pay attention to that and you just want to hire your friend, you can look at the US government to see what happens. Right? It doesn't look good. The end. That's my case for it.
We have to stop building the case. I think it's more than proven and verified. I just want to get us into the action mode. I do have one question from the audience, and sorry, but I had to pick Norman because he was like the first one. So please, Norman.
First of all, I wasn't putting my hand up to interrupt you midway. I was putting my hand up because you said one question, and I wanted to be the first one. Yeah. Just so you know. All right, so first of all, thank you, Alana, for joining us today. I did write a script, but It's my thoughts, but I wrote a script, but it's my thoughts. Yes, hello everyone. My name is Norman Valdez, and I'm the CEO of Brain Trainer. I'm a proud part of the steering committee that helped bring Alianza Latina to life. So this is our second event, and it makes me very happy to see all of you here. I want to just also express how we need to recognize Citlali. Every time I come up to the front, I say something similar. But so this is a tradition. Thank you for your efforts on gathering us today. I remember the first time she was talking about this event, and she was like, I have like 20 community partners. I was like, how, in what time zone do you do this? I don't know, but that just speaks to the level of leadership, trust, and impact that you bring, that you're building on this community. So I'm very happy to be working alongside of you on this journey. So I've been thinking very deeply to ask you this question because I knew you were coming, because Citlali told me weeks ago, and I had checked out your book. And it's going to come with 2 data points, a reflection, a second data point, and then a question. Okay, that's the structure. So the first one.
I am a little scared at this point. Okay, I'm ready.
The first data point is numbers. 24% of AI women are represented in the industry right now. Those are the overall numbers. Globally, it's around 30%. In the tech space, the numbers are even lower. There's about 19% women in tech being represented. So that's a number to keep in mind. So I've been thinking a lot about how this world is just out of balance. You know, like, it just feels like there are many systems that harm norms, masculinity, aggression, unbound, in unbound ways, where promotion of domination, emotional suppression, disconnection from core, and we are just discouraged as males to welcome genuine emotion, right? We're told we're not supposed to cry, we're not supposed to express our emotions. There's a lot of repression that goes on, and I feel that brings a lot of disconnectedness. In Canada, the consequences are very dire, and this is where the second number comes, that it's not an easy number, but it's true, and that is that the rate of male suicides is about 75% for males cited. And so that brings me to think and worry that as we continue to live in this balanced world where unhealthy, unbound masculinity that shows up in the intent to do war, for example, I think if our wars was a little bit balanced in terms of like femininity, masculinity, we wouldn't have, or at the very least, almost not have any wars. And now we have a case, there's a landmark case that happened in Los Angeles, which I'm sure you're aware of. Meta and YouTube found liable to actually intentionally control and produce harm to the design of technology. Now it's being demonstrated that there are intentional efforts to do that in our society. And of course, compounds with AI, because AI is only going to amplify all of this notion of disbalance and unhealthy masculinity. So my question to you is, in thinking about your book, number one, do you have a reflection on this balance that I'm mentioning? Do you see a concern potentially amplifying by many times because of AI and social media, etc.? But also, what advice would you give to a woman working in tech who notices something that goes against their values, right? So I'm thinking the woman working in YouTube and Meta and seeing all this systemic harm from the system being harmed. And what pressure do you think they feel to protect their careers, to fit into systems that reward silence and conformity, whether the NDAs and other things? What would you say to women about how to hold on their integrity, trust, and values that they see, and encourage them to speak up in environments that don't necessarily welcome the truth?
All right, so that was book 4 you just asked me about. But I will work on that. Also, I want to get you all to like food and bev. So, listen, I'm in California. I'm a liberal. Like you know who you're talking to right now. I do think that the way we've defined gender as humans is deeply flawed, and it is leading to a lot of ramifications that we are experiencing in real time. And the more strictly we define humans simply by their physical attributes, the more problems we are going to have. And when I want more women in tech, I am to some degree representing the femininity in tech, right? I'm not arguing for more women just because I want literally 25% more vaginas in the room. I don't care what that's about. What I care is the diversity of life perspective. And that is across all kinds of things as well. So all kinds of other intersections of race, experience, religion, politics, all the things. It is uncomfortable. It is inherently uncomfortable to us tribal humans when we try to go across those boundaries. But it is the most important thing we do. And the fact that right now, under stress, governments and companies are absolving themselves of the responsibility of addressing that is hugely problematic. What I will say is that it also kind of like, it's so bad, it's like so bad right now, that I'm pretty sure if you were a history major like me, you're starting to kind of like see what could lead to the next wave. Now, I am not saying that that doesn't come with a terrible down part. And I think we are seeing it, an increase in violence, an increase in suicide, an increase of just general lack of caring and apathy in society. But I think it is hard for humans to see bad until it gets bad. And actually, the court decision against Meta and YouTube, you can sort of wave it away and be like, oh, they'll be fine. But it is, for a lot of people, the first time someone has officially said what these companies did is bad, and we are holding them responsible. And it took a long time for the right court case to come, phrased the right way, focused on the right things to do that. But now that it does pave the way for a lot of follow-up. I think a woman, a singular woman in tech right now, probably doesn't feel a lot of ability to fight the system. I wouldn't expect them to. In my book, I basically talk more about how you can still be personally an agent of good. You can know good people, you can support your peers, you can bring up things to the level that you feel safe doing so. And that is still a positive agent of change for this time. Yes, you don't get maybe the big ERG, employee resource group funding anymore. Maybe you don't get to create a whole new training program because the funding dried up for that. But a lot of those were window dressing anyway. And what really always mattered was the peer-to-peer support. So I think that women need to decide on their individual approaches. And lastly, I would say is that if you are an environment which truly does not welcome your perspective, which pushes back at every turn towards what you say, then it is them, it is not you. You can try for an extra few months. You can say, oh, maybe if I try this way, but I would put a time frame on it. And if that time frame expires, I would get out. Because not everywhere is good enough for you, my lovely snowflakes. And I think sometimes it's more about them, and there are better places.
Perfect. Thank you so much. A big applause for Alana. Thank you, Alana.
Silali just found me on LinkedIn, by the way, and any of you are welcome to do so as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Alana. We are officially almost done. I will not keep you any longer. ¿Me ayudas a cambiarle slide solamente, porfis? From the fabulous food from Havana Chef Table. Yes, we're almost done. I just want to again thank everyone for coming today. I am so happy. Again, if you didn't come at the beginning, I am still so excited to see a lot of friendly faces in the audience, the community. I want to thank our sponsors tonight, eCampus Ontario, Ideas, IE University, TechMean, and our fabulous producers of video and photography, ODavid Productions. So I'm not forgetting anyone from the sponsors, no. A big applause for them, please. And Norman, it's actually almost 30 community partners. So they almost not fit here. And I am missing a few. My apologies for that. But whoever is representing today one of our partners, please raise your hand, please. Shruti, everyone that is a community partner, I am so appreciative of your support, of your attendance here tonight. Am I forgetting something? We will do a group picture. Whoever has a W on your badge wins a book donated by Alana. So find Alejandra there. Whoever has a W on your badge, on your name badge, wins a book. And then we are going to do a group picture after you've had some drinks and refreshments at the back. Just settle down for a little bit. Just one more second. Thank you so much for coming. And can my panelists come here for a picture, please? And thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Ya.
Ya me está gustando más de lo normal. Todos mis sentidos van pidiendo más. Esto que tú malo sin ningún apuro. Despacito, quiero respirar tu cuello despacito. Deja que te diga cosas al oído, para que te acuerdes si no estás conmigo. Despacito, quiero desnudarte a besos despacito. Firmo las paredes de tu laberinto y hacer de tu cuerpo todo un manuscrito. Quiero ver bailar tu pelo, quiero ser tu ritmo. Que le enseñes a mi boca tus lugares favoritos. Déjame sobrepasar tus zonas de peligro y hasta provocar tus gritos y que olvides tu apellido. Si te pido un beso, ven, dámelo. Yo sé que estás pensándolo, yo intento intentándolo. Mami, estoy dando y dándolo. Sabes que tu corazón conmigo te hace bam bam. Saben que esta vera está buscando. Ven, prueba de mi boca para ver cómo te saben. Quiero ver cuánto amor a ti te cae. Yo no tengo prisa, yo me quiero dar el viaje. Y empecemos lento, después salvaje. Pasito a pasito, suave, suavecito. Nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Cuando tú me besas con esa destreza, yo veo que eres malicia con delicadeza. Pasito a pasito, suave, suavecito. Nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Y es que esa belleza es un rompecabezas, pero para armarla aquí traigo la pieza. Y oye, pasito, quiero respirar tu cuello despacito. Firmo las paredes de tu laberinto y hacer de tu cuerpo todo un manuscrito. Despacito, quiero recorrer tu cuello despacito. Firmo las paredes de tu laberinto y hacer de tu cuerpo todo un manuscrito. Quiero ser tu ritmo, que le enseñes a mi boca y tus lugares favoritos. Déjame sobrepasar tus zonas de peligro y hasta provocar tus gritos y que olvides tu apellido. Despacito, quiero respirar tu cuello despacito. Firmo las paredes de tu laberinto y hacer de tu cuerpo tu manuscrito. Despacito, poquito a pasito, nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Es que esa belleza es un rompecabezas, pero para armarla aquí traigo la pieza. Suave, suavecito, nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Y es que esa belleza es un rompecabezas, pero para armarla aquí traigo la pieza. Y yo, oye,
muy bien, muy bien. Vamos a seguir con esta party. Let's keep